Bitcoin has nearly broken the six-digit level of the $100,000, but failed to do so and is now facing resistance. How in the world can we get to $100,000? Markets are ultra sensitive as we are now in price discovery, so every little detail going forward is going to be crucial. Tons of people are going to even take the smallest of news bits on social media, for example, and that can even make or break the price action, such as possible Black Friday sale, which is kind of stupid in my opinion, but it is what it is. People actually take that into consideration for the price action, and even a coinciding Michael Saylor buying at all-time highs. Who's right? Ultimately, the market is right, and that's why we use the Elliott Wave Theory to make sure we stay with a neutral bias as much as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Bitcoin analysis. Today, we're going to be discussing the different pathways on how we can still continue to $100,000 and possibly beyond, as I still believe that is the current narrative. But before we begin, please make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to get the latest Elliott Wave analysis updates from my channel. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate everyone's support so far. Now, let's do a quick recap before diving into our analysis. From our previous analysis, we anticipated a fifth wave of the primary degree to the upside to complete in the yellow circle, and that appears to be exactly what has occurred. We do have a relatively pretty solid five-wave structure to complete this first initial expansion phase of the extended wave 3 of the higher degree, as indicated by the green subminuet degree. And we're now looking for a wave 4 to the downside before continuing up, as that is kind of what we're trying to expect here. Now, when dissecting the smaller degrees, especially in the price discovery, it gets very tricky. We just have to go with what the markets give us. But one thing that's very important is that we're just making sure to find the clues of major termination points, ladies and gentlemen. And it seems like we got our first major termination point of a higher degree, wave 3, to complete as we were anticipating. So what that means is that we're looking for a wave 4 to complete to the downside, like I mentioned, whatever pattern that may be. I'll be going over some of the basic patterns on what we can expect. And also, just very quickly from our Discord, as price was progressing to the upside, we were also dissecting the move play by play to the upside. So if you are interested in joining the Discord membership, please make sure to click the link in the description below to inquire joining our private membership, where I do discuss all the possibilities as the tides change very quickly within the markets. So do possibly think about that if you are interested in getting a more detailed outlook on the price action. So with this current wave 4, again, like I've said, we're now looking for all of the possibilities of the types of patterns or corrective patterns, which is going to be labeled in a lettered denotation, which is going to be starting off with the first ABC as the base root. So whatever that may be turning into, a more complex correction as a WXY, if it turns into a multiple zigzag where we have two ABCs, for example, as a simple zigzag, then we can label this alternatively as a WXY, and we're going to figure out what is going to be relatively giving us in terms of the current data, the best look, possible Fibonacci ratios to take into consideration. So let's dive in. We're going to have to see how this level is playing out at the current time of recording. But right now, it does seem like it's still working within that first initial ABC as we have here. Now, can it be technically complete? Let's talk about that. So if we go into the shorter time frames and we kind of zoom in and see what the current price action is giving us. Like I've said, we were looking for 5 waves up to the upside for that larger degree, wave 5 or wave 3 to the upside, and we're now looking for a wave 4 to complete. So just to kind of simply put it, we're looking for this wave 4. Now, don't mind the degrees or in the labeling type structures. That's not the importance here. As with each time frame, I just have the same respective types of degrees of the primary degrees. I usually work in 3 degrees here, or 4 if we're working with this. So as you can see, we were looking for 5 waves up, and we're now looking for an ABC to the downside as the base root. Like I said, within the Elliott Wave Theory, the basic correction pattern, or corrective pattern rather, is an ABC. So if that's the case, we want this ABC, or the first wave A rather, to have that initial move as deep as possible. Now, did we get a relatively deep move to the downside? Yes. I mean, according to the news, over 200 million liquidations occurred just from that 3% or 4% move to the downside. So of course, people are starting to take profits, and highly leveraged players within the markets are, that's why I'm saying highly sensitive market right now is getting liquidated. So how can we first create this initial move to the downside? Now, it wasn't impulsive, so we didn't create a 5-wave move to the downside. What other motive wave can we create, or motive wave can we create out of this? Instead of an impulse, we do have an option if we were working correctively to the downside that can still create the first initial wave 1 or wave A, and that is the leading expanding diagonal. Now, it is rare, of course, but we're not here to talk about the rarity of the patterns, but we're talking about the validity of the patterns, as we're just looking for the overall corrective move of the general direction. And right now, we have a possible leading expanding diagonal here. So very interesting, just kind of an educational approach. I did kind of take into consideration whether this is valid or not, but we do have a very interesting kind of outlook for this leading expanding diagonal, which is that we do have 5-3-5-3-5. And usually that's quite rare, and it's kind of interesting to see that play out for Bitcoin, because usually when you have a leading expanding diagonal, you could work with a 3-3-3-3-3. That's usually the most common case, but with the leading expanding diagonal, you can have another variation, which is the 5-3-5-3-5, and that seems to be the case here. So that's just kind of another educational approach. You can do the research on your own in terms of what kind of patterns and ways we can create the expanding diagonal, or the leading diagonal rather, is that we can have a 5-3-5-3-5 here, and that seems like to be the case. So it's kind of intertwining with each other, with having possibly in terms of the market psychology that we were trying to look for an impulse, but at the same time we were creating a distribution phase at the same time that created the overall pattern for this move here. We got an ABC here for going into a W, ABC here for a wave X, and another ABC here for a wave Y. This seems not out of the ordinary. This seems just perfectly fine. If we take the Fibonacci retracement of this from this level here, we did reach critical resistance here, as you can see, at the 78.6 level, which is, again, subjective in nature, but it is a common retracement, in my opinion, for a wave B, especially if you're working in a higher degree. The 78.6, the 61.8.6, even up to the 88.6% level is considered valid for a wave B. So for me, this does look like a wave B completion here. And now this move here, as you can see, as opposed to this move here, definitely looks impulsive, right? If we're looking for an impulse, we're looking for a 5-wave move and relatively sharp in nature. And that's exactly what we're looking for in terms of the characteristic of a wave C. So as you can see, this wave C, whether it is complete or not, we're just going to have to kind of base it off with the current data, and also Fibonacci ratios and extensions and all that in mind. Right now, we are reaching that 100% level, whether that is a self-fulfilling prophecy or not. But as you can see, we do have some kind of reaction happening at the current time recording. I'm not saying it's complete, could be complete, but this 100% level is now equal in length to this wave A. But does it pertain to a good look on the overall macro structure? That is up for debate, and in my opinion, I'm not sure if it is complete. But if it is complete, it is technically valid. So if we do zoom out and we're working in that degree that I was mentioning, remember, we're done with this 5-wave move to the upside. We're now working for an internal wave 4, as you can see here, this 4 here, and we're looking for some kind of wave 1, 2 to be complete to the downside as well. So if that's trying to match in terms of the symmetry, which is something that I also take into consideration, just doesn't seem like this is a complete correction. Now, it's technically valid to be complete. So what that means is we now have to open the toolbox and see what the ABC could also develop into, which means can this turn to a more complex correction to kind of divert away from having such a short correction, which is not out of the ordinary, again, in a very bullish market. But since we are working in a assumed higher degree major termination point, we want this wave 4 to at least have some kind of relatively respective in nature to meet some kind of lower level of the Fibonacci extensions and also normal Fibonacci extensions, right? Normal Fibonacci retracements, rather. So if that was an ABC, again, this wave C the first level, of course, is going to be looking for equality for this wave A, which we did achieve just now at the 100% level. Remember, this wave C can extend all the way down to the 161.8%, which is another common level. To subcategorize this, wave C can be technically be complete here, or can still come down as it is still impulsive. We just don't know until, a few days later. We'll see and reassess how this is playing out. But let's just say that the wave C is either in play still or complete. How can this develop into a deeper correction where it doesn't turn extremely impulsive, but just turning into a more complex correction? This means that if we're working for or assuming a deeper correction, we're now working in a wave W, and we're now looking for a wave X to the upside, as that is going to be the next distribution phase, right? So this is the map. Remember, this is the map that you want to be looking at. You're going to be looking for another ABC to the downside. So if that's the case, that can help us reach down for what could be a deeper level. And if we take this out of the equation and we take the level of this extension here, we can come down and meet that 23.6% Fibonacci level, which can help kind of mitigate and offset the too short of a correction here that can give us a more complex correction. Now, this is all, of course, assumed. We don't know if this is going to be turning a complex correction, but Bitcoin does like to go into the tendency of going into complex corrections. So we'll just see how this plays out. Now, alternatively, we could be working in a flat correction, right? So this is now going to be turning into a different type of correction, which is going to be the flat correction. So if we remove this idea here, we could be working in a 3-3-5 structure, which means this could be also happening, which is going to be the A, B, C pattern. And that also in itself can also help offset the idea of the time perspective, which means that we're going to be still working in a larger wave 4, even if we do create a new price extreme. And this wave B is going to be very important. Now, is this going to be the case? I don't know. Right now, with the current market sentiment, this move here kind of just put it into the overall perspective of the current time of recording, that markets look like it still wants to correct a little bit further to the downside, just more of a sharper nature than anything else. But we're just going to have to see again. But I am giving you guys the blueprint on how we can achieve this wave 4, which is the most important thing. The general overall perspective is still moving to the upside, but we just need a little bit more distribution as this major termination point has completed. So that's that. If that flat idea does play out, but for now, since this move does look impulsive and this move here just seems more fitting towards a sharper corrective characteristic, I would say that whether the wave C is complete now or a little bit deeper, we could say that it could also be working in a WXY to the downside for that wave 4. So that's how my current outlook is for this wave 4, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I think that we're still working for the general overall direction from a top-down analysis, that we're still looking for more upside. This could be possibly a DCA kind of strategy more than anything else if you are kind of positioned within these levels over here. But I wouldn't be worrying too much if you are already positioned within these levels over here, as we do have another level of support block here. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this wave 3-4 is the current sentiment that we're looking for in terms of how we're going to be working towards the upside. So hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, please do remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Again, I did mention about the Discord membership if you want to get more detailed outlook and how the sentiment and the tides change as price progresses. I do that in my Discord and also my Patreon, but that's only twice a week. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Thank you very much. I will see you guys in the next video. Remember, we are still working this wave 4. Whether this wave C is complete, technically can be complete, or we can be technically completing for a wave C a little bit further, or if this turns into a deeper correction, could be working in a WXY, which can lead us down to, again, the 80K regions before moving to the upside. And remember, the key point is this: it's in the general direction that we're moving to the upside. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Thank you. Bye-bye.